Hi, Paul Slackis, Good News Planet, speaking to Sarah Nelson. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Okay. Are you still the editorial director over there at Amazon?
I still am, yes, sir.
Oh, lucky them. You've had an illustrious career. I know, you were Publishers Weekly, is that right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And Oprah's Empire, let's call it?
O Magazine, right?
Right. So you know your stuff. We're going to talk today about Amazon book editors reveal the 2014 Big Fall Books preview. Oh, okay, good. Because we're almost there. It's starting to get a little bit cooler.
Yeah,
so tell us what's going on here. I know you're a lover of books.
Right. Well, I have a team of 5 people. I make 6, and we a big part of our job is to read books as they're coming out, and a little bit in advance, and we get advance copies, and we read and we read and we read, and then we read some more, and then we get together several times in a month to decide what are going to be our favorite books of the month, best of the month program. So every month on the first of the month we post and get out to other media our choices of the 10 best books of the month, and then also the best books of the month within specific categories like mystery thriller or romance or whatever. And we also, a couple of times a year, we do a best of the year so far. We do a best of the year, which comes out in November for the whole year. And we do spring preview, fall preview. So we try to tell our readers what's coming up, and what we like, both what we expect to be bestsellers, the big books, the big name books, and then also the books that we might have that you might not hear about if you didn't hear about them from us, so that we've sort of unearthed the sort of hidden gems, the finds, and that's for me, that's really the fun part. I love a good Stephen King novel or a good John Grisham novel, but what I really love is to sort of stumble on something that maybe I can have a hand in making other people know about.
Let me ask you a question for the names kind of people that really I'm looking through, some of the ones you have, and we'll put the text here so people can see all of them for the Big Fall Books. What is it about these writers that, one, I guess you tell me, what is it that keeps them on your best, your best list? What is it about them, you think?
Well, I think that, I'm looking at, for example, Karen Slaughter, who is a thriller writer, crime writer. She's a specific. What makes what makes a book successful? What makes people like a writer? It's really if we knew that, we would all we'd bottle it and sell it, right? But for me, it's somebody who has a very specific voice or beat or kind of story that they tell. I think that a lot of times readers like to know what they're getting in advance. In the sense that they don't know the specific story, but they know, for example, that Karen Slaughter writes about strong women, or she writes about women cops a lot. She writes about crimes against women. She writes about women in the law. So pretty much you're going to get that in the same way that with somebody like Stephen King, who has written a lot of books and a lot of different kinds of books. But they're going to be compelling stories. They're going to have a psychological element. They might have a little bit of supernatural horror in them. So I think people like to have something that's both familiar and surprising to them at the same time. And I think that's what a lot of these writers deliver.
And how about that writer that, is writing books but hasn't gotten the notoriety? But would you suggest best to stick with like the genre that they have been working with and try to carve out their own little niche?
Yeah, I think writers have to write what they want to write, and it just doesn't work. I think it's not good advice to tell a writer, look at what's selling and try to write a book like that, like he said, I mean, I think that I like to think, and I certainly think it's true of me and of my team, that you can sort of spot an inauthentic book a mile away. I mean, I can always feel it when the writer is writing what they think they're supposed to write to get that's very attention getting or sort of gratuitously unusual, and it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel organic. So I think writers just have to write what they want to write. I mean, sure, some genres do better than others, but if you're not, if you're not steeped in or don't feel like writing a, science fiction novel, it's just not going to work if you write it just because you think it's going to sell. You can write it just because you want to see if you can do it or you want to experiment with it, but I think the intent is really important.
Give us a couple examples of some books that for the fall that you really are suggesting for people to read that don't have the top name on it.
Sure. Well, I am in love with a book called The Story of the Lost Child. It's the fourth book in a series, a quartet of books by an Italian author named Elena Ferrante. And this book is getting a lot of really good reviews right now. It's probably it's about women, and it's about two best friends who are best friends and frenemies, lifelong. And this is the fourth book. They're getting old in this book, and they met as toddlers. It's these whole life novels. I mean, I think pretty much every woman I have talked to has either read them or is dying to read them or has heard they're supposed to read them. So I would say that is the new book is called The Story of the Lost Child, but it is the Neapolitan novels by Elena Ferrante. That's one thing that we are really crazy about. I personally am crazy about that. I'm also very interested in a novel called Sweet Caress, which is by the British writer William Boyd, who is not as well known as others, like Ian McEwan, who's quite well known, I think, and this is a novel about a woman photographer in the 20th century. It's a page turner, and it's a very intelligent literary book. So I think of him as somebody who is sort of underknown in this country. We also are crazy about a book called The Thing About Jellyfish, which is a debut kids book. I think this is the book that kids are going to be reading a lot of, through the holidays. I think it's a perfect sort of fall, holiday book or back to school nighttime book. It's by a writer named Allie Benjamin. It's a debut, and it's about innocence and loss of innocence and friendship. It's perfect for like 9, 10, 11-year-olds.
The future of books, e-books, cloud books, books. Where are we in the world of books? People still want to get that in their hands?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Do people still want to have a book in their hands?
I think people want, for different reasons, want different kinds of ways to read. I'm hardly the typical reader. I understand that, but sometimes I really want to. I was just telling Karen I want to, go sit in the hammock and read a book. But when I'm traveling, I want to read on my Kindle. When I'm at the gym, I want to read on my Kindle because I don't have to wear my reading glasses, which I would have to do for a book. So I think it depends on the kind of book. I think it depends on where you are in your life, both, in terms of whether you're traveling, whether you're sitting at home, whether sometimes it's nice. Some books I want to have, and I want to have them physically and have them on my shelves, and some books I want to, read, and I don't necessarily want to make a spot for them on my shelves because I've got a lot of books. So I think it varies, and I think, to some extent that's most people's experience. I do know some people who are full-time Kindle readers and some who are still absolutely, I must hold the book in my hand. But I think people are malleable in that way.
All right, that sounds cool. What's good news for you?
What do you mean?
Any aspect, personally, professionally. What's good news?
I don't know. I love the fall for a lot of reasons. I like to start to be able to wear boots, and I also like that a whole bunch of books come out in the next 2 or 3 months. Is like that's when the best books of the year come out, I think, usually.
Uh-huh. All right. Our last question, I think I mentioned here earlier that we're very involved with the International Day of Peace, and we have some events here in New York in September. And what's peace for you? What does peace mean to you?
Well, on the macro level, I think that peace means what it means to everybody, which is the absence of war and the absence of violence and the absence of conflict. For me, personally, peace means everybody's happy and healthy, and I can lie in the hammock.
It's a good thing. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing good news with us. We'll, as I said, indicate all this information and links and so on and so forth. So really good stuff. Thank you. It's always been a pleasure and honor to speak with you. Thank you.
Okay, it's always nice to talk to you too.